Mr. Trichet, a very warm welcome in our studios.
Thank you for your invitation.
Yesterday evening you dined with some former Minister of Finance like Gerrit Salm, Wouter Bos, Hans Hogevorst and the current Minister of Finance, Jan Kees de Jager. And you were also awarded de Ridder Grootkruis in de Orde van Oranje Nassau. May I congratulate you?
Thank you very much indeed.
And I think that's the Grootkruis you wear.
Yes, indeed. I wear it immediately after having been honored. It was very, very moving. I didn't know that I would receive this honor.
It was a surprise.
It was a great surprise. And I have to say that it was, for me, extraordinarily moving because one of the main motto I had in mind since I was young was the motto of the House of Orange. So I was extremely moved. And it was also extraordinary to be with the previous Ministers of Finance, previous Trésorier Général, and it was, a great period of history in the making that I could share with during this dinner. So very, very moving, and I'm extremely honored. I was honored by a visit to the Royal Palace. I saw the Queen, and we had a very, I have to say, extraordinary exchange of view on history in the making in Europe.
What characterizes a Dutch Minister of Finance, in your opinion?
Well, I told them that what was for me extremely important, and I have to say remarkable, was that whatever sensitivities they have, they were calling for sound policies, for responsible policies in the Eurogroup with all the other colleagues, so that I could see that there was something which was very strong in the Dutch culture, which was making all, I would say, sensitivities very aware of the necessity to have wise policies.
Yes. Who is, in your opinion, in your experience, the best Minister of Finance?
As you know, we are issuing the currency, the euro, for all sensitivities, for all the people of Europe. And I will not give a word myself to the various Ministers of Finance.
Maybe it was Mr. Zalm because he was the man who openly opposed Germany and France when they broke the budget rules of the Stability Pact.
We had, of course, at that time, a very, very fierce battle. A very fierce battle. It was very much a battle between the big countries that at the time wanted to blow up the Stability and Growth Pact, and Netherlands and other medium-sized and small countries that were fiercely for maintaining the Stability and Growth Pact, which is absolutely necessary for the euro area to be run correctly. And as you know, as you remember, the ECB was strongly, very strongly fighting for preserving the Stability and Growth Pact. I expressed myself on behalf of the Governing Council at that time our grave concerns. When you have the benefit of the hindsight and you see what has happened since, you understand better how extraordinarily bizarre was this will of, blowing up the pact and getting rid of the pact. Now everybody recognizes that it was wrong, of course.
In an interview with the Dutch Financiële Dagblad, that's the Dutch Financial Times, on Friday, Jürgen Stark, the German member of the board of directors of the ECB, argued that the proposed budgetary rules are far too lenient. The current proposals need to be reconsidered. Would you agree on that?
Well, it is the position of the Governing Council of the ECB. The Governing Council of the ECB, and I made that point very, very clearly in the European Council with the heads of state and government, considered already that the initial proposal of the Commission was too timid, too shy. The governments have decided to be less ambitious than the Commission itself. So we are calling for what I call a quantum leap in the reinforcement of the governance of the European economy, particularly in the euro area, the 17, but also at the level of the 27. And our message is very, very clear in this domain. Message for governments, message for the Commission, and message for the Parliament. Because now there is this dialogue between the Council, the governments, and the Parliament on the basis of the report of the Commission. I am convinced that the Parliament, which has proved in the past constantly that they were very aware of the necessity to have a strong governance of Europe, I'm sure that the Parliament will go in this direction.
During a meeting in Deauville last October 2010, Angela Merkel and Nicolas Sarkozy agreed that sanctions will not be imposed automatically if a country fails to meet its obligations. Should they revise this position?
This is an issue which is determined by the Council itself, by the 17 and the 27. And that had been examined in the European Council itself. The European Council agreed on a certain position. As I said, that position is less ambitious than the Commission position, which itself was considered by us as too timid. So I hope very much that with the appropriate dialogue with the Parliament, between the Council and the Parliament, because don't forget, that decision will be a decision underwritten by both governments and Parliament in the European decision-making process. So I hope very much, and I would say I expect that this governance will be reinforced and that the quasi-automaticity of for the start of the procedure, of the adjustment procedure, and for the sanctions will be incorporated in the future governance of Europe. It is essential for us. I mean, we have to draw all the lessons from the present crisis. The present crisis has demonstrated that we had to formidably reinforce governance, and it is our clear message. So we are not part of that decision, I have to say. Each institution has to take up its responsibility, but our message is crystal clear.
How will you persuade Germany and France to do this?
I mean, Germany and France are not alone. You have Germany, France, the Netherlands, and all others. And it is together that they decide.
Are the most important economics of Europe.
Well, yes, but I mean, what is absolutely clear is that there are decision-making processes and all countries are participating.
The European Parliament, you mentioned before, will meet on Monday to discuss the Stability and Growth Pact. Because of the different opinions of the leaders, are they, the European Parliament, are they your last resort?
I think that everybody is reflecting. There are meditation in the European Parliament, and I said already that I consider the European Parliament as having demonstrated a great level of lucidity, of strategic lucidity, and dedication for reinforcing European governance. Our message for the European Parliament is exactly the same as for the governments themselves. And I expect governments to continue reflecting on what should be done, taking again into account all the experience that came from these tensions and this crisis. Again, this is not only Europe. All the advanced economy are presently reviewing their strategy, reviewing their, if I may, their business model, if I can take that metaphor. And it is true in Japan, it is true in the United States. We should be ahead of the curve, not behind the curve. And as I said already, I have confidence that this discussion will produce a governance which would be in line with what is required. We are responsible for the monetary union. And we are delivering. Over 12 years, we had average yearly inflation for 330 million people below 2% and close to 2%. Exactly 1 2.97%. Less than 2, close to 2. Yearly average of inflation for the full body of the euro area. We are responsible for the M. The monetary union functions and delivers exactly as the people of Europe had asked us to deliver. The economic union has to be improved.
Okay, but aren't you worried about the new inflation notes?
Yes, I have said that we were observing, because of the price of oil and of energy
Food
in general, and commodities, we could see a hump in the headline inflation.
But doesn't it worry you?
We had at the level of Europe as a whole 2.2%. The position of the Governing Council is that we have to be alert to avoid second round effects. It is what counts. You know, when you have such increase of commodity prices, you have an immediate increase of CPI, which is unavoidable, of course, because we are not the master of the price of oil. What is important for us is to avoid that there is any increase of the other prices that would create a problem for price stability in the medium term. Our definition of price stability is less than 2%, close to 2% in the medium term.
Okay. Will we ever be able to leave the euro crisis behind without further advancing towards political union?
The Stability and Growth Pact has element of political union, because
an element, but it isn't a political union.
Political union. What we call for quantum leap in terms of governance for both macro policies and for the fiscal policy is, of course, a way to take into account the institutional framework, which is not a full-fledged political federation, but to have what is needed to be sure of the stability and the prosperity of the single market and of the single market with a single currency. As a citizen, I would say that I am convinced that further progress, historical progress, in the direction of political Europe are necessary. But this is a position of the citizen, of Jean-Claude Trichet as a citizen of Europe. But it is not the position of the Governing Council.
No.
We are, respecting what is decided by the people of Europe, because at the end, it is in the hands of the people of Europe. We are in democracies. We are, I have to say, fortunately in Europe, living in exemplary democracies. The people will decide.
Okay. I'd like to go through a few scenarios, if you don't mind. If Greece or Ireland, for instance, defaults, what will happen?
I don't comment on absurd assumptions.
I was afraid of.
Yeah, I can say that.
But I give it a try, you know. But might a specific default, might that be a real problem for the Eurozone, if it will happen?
Again, I don't comment on assumption. What we have now is a program which has been approved by the international community and not only by the European, by the IMF and not only by the Commission and by the Council, in liaison with us. And it's hard work. Hard work has to be done according to this diagnosis, which is visible, obvious, and known by all, not only by the European, but by the